I'm part of the School of Social Sciences, so we actually received an email from the campus saying that Michael Oren was going to be coming to our campus in order to speak on February 8th, 2010. And the event was sponsored not only by student groups on campus, but also off-campus pro-Zionist groups, as well as the Political Science Department and the School of Law. And what that meant for us was pretty much that they're rolling out the red carpet for Michael Oren. And what that means is the school is tacitly approving not only Michael Oren himself, but the policies of the State of Israel. This is the highest level foreign official for the State of Israel here in the United States. And we were well aware of Michael Oren's role, not only in Operation Cast Lead, but also he actually was a paratrooper during the Israeli invasion of Lebanon back in the 80s, in which 30,000 Lebanese civilians were killed. And for us, especially, if you go to Gaza and you actually see after Operation Cast Lead everything that's done, and you see the destruction, and when I say destruction, it's unbelievable. It's almost like a Hollywood set, where to see nearly every single building destroyed, leveled. It doesn't matter if it's a house, if it's a school, if it's the Parliament building, if it's factories, farms, you name it, any type of building completely destroyed. And if you're talking about the houses that are lucky, are the houses where only half of the house has been destroyed. And then amongst the rubble, there's people living. There's people that live in the rubble, there's people that live in whatever is left of their houses. And even the houses that are still standing, or any building still standing, you're talking about they're being riddled with bullet holes. You cannot escape the remnants of the war in Gaza. It doesn't matter who you are or where you go. Every single building has bullet holes, and I'm not talking about little like bullet holes that come out of, a pistol or something. I'm talking about huge things like this big. And you're talking about tens of bullet holes in every single house. On second-story houses, you're talking about on the top level, around the windows. And when it comes to every single house, it becomes pretty obvious that you're not attempting to only go after militants, but you're just targeting people everywhere. And I think that's how you end up with 1,400 civilians dead in the course of a 3-week military invasion. And so after seeing that, and after hearing from people like the Samuni girls, 3 young cousins who had 45 of their relatives killed in one shot when a bomb was dropped on their house, I mean, it's the least that you can do to just stand up for these people, for anybody in the world that has been affected by violence. And it's not just Palestinians either, it's just, how can you be a human being and not be saddened when you see other human beings suffering? Regardless of whether they're Muslim, non-Muslim, of wherever they are in the world, you see innocent human beings, innocent civilians being killed, you have to do something about it. And so for us, we sat down at UCI, a bunch of students, and we're like, all right, what are we gonna do? Michael Oren is coming to campus, we have to do something. We're college students, we protest. So let's show our disapproval in one way or another. And we went through a long laundry list of different ideas, from let's not even show up to the event, to let's show up to the event and do a silent walkout, to let's pick it outside, to let's take over the speaker system and completely unplug their speakers and put it into like whatever we want to put it into, and just like, I don't know, play a lecture, play music, play anything, just or play a video of someone screaming, I don't know, anything to just like kind of disrupt completely the lecture. And what we ended up deciding to do was someone brought up the idea of what we called the University of Chicago style disruption. And what we were referring to was a disruption that took place in Chicago of Ehud Olmert in I don't know when in 2009, but at some point in time in 2009 in response to also Operation Cast Lead. And during their protest, 30 students and professors from the university actually one by one individually disrupted Ehud Olmert as he was speaking. And they would just continue talking and yelling out, "You're a war criminal," and they would actually read off a list of the people who had been killed in Gaza. And they would keep going until police would grab them, take them outside, and then they were let go. And we were well aware that no one was academically disciplined, and no one was arrested, no one was criminally punished, no one was criminally persecuted. And this is college. Like, it's not even just this protest. We've seen tons of protests. And the reason why I'm saying this is just to give you the mindset of we were just going into this not to do something heroic, not to break the law. We're just going into this to do what college students do. Even at UCI in 2009, November 2009, there was huge tuition fee hike protests going on at the time. So at UCI, we had a huge protest, over 1,000 people, and UCI is built in a big circle. So it's very easy to go throughout UCI and just kind of go along the circle and just go into every major lecture hall on campus. So we would go through every major lecture hall on campus. You're talking about 500-person lecture halls, and we would come in from every available door, from the front doors, the back doors, the side doors, and you're talking about like tens of people, if not hundreds of people walking in, walking up and down the aisles, just chanting, walk out, walk out, walk out, completely taking over classrooms and disrupting them. Even at one point in time, one student gets up on the stage that's protesting, and he starts yelling, to everyone to leave the room, get out, walk out, everyone, class is over, go out and protest, your tuition is being raised. And so the professor is not very fond of this man's protest, and they get into a little shoving match, and they start pushing one another. And UCI Police Department was present. The senior administrators for the Dean of Students and like student conduct and everything was present also at the protest. No one was arrested, nobody was academically disciplined, no threats of arrest were made, and even no student or organization was disciplined by the university. And so for us, this is the mindset. It's like, wow, you can go into a classroom, school time, and completely just disrupt. And you can stage a protest because you're giving a political speech, and that's what you do in America. That's what you do as college students. You go in and you make your voice heard. So we were like, all right, cool. What we're gonna do is kind of like the University of Chicago. But we're gonna do it, not to like hate on Chicago, but in a little different of a fashion that we felt maybe was a little bit more organized. So we're like, all right. And if it sounds lame and tame compared to other protests, it really was. We got a bunch of 3x5 index cards, and you can see the big man, Shaheen, who is what we call the world's biggest teddy bear. And don't be afraid of his size, he's a very nice man. We had 3x5 cards with statements. My bad, I keep raising it. 3x5 cards with statements written out on each of the cards. And each of the statements was done. It was a short statement, not supposed to take up much time, and just to deliver a short political statement, and also to avoid any type of vulgarity, any type of emotion, so that people don't just get up there and just start like screaming and waving their hands and like just going buck wild pretty much. It was really just done so you could stick to a short statement. Don't respond to crowd agitations. If the police tell you anything, obey police orders. And right after you're done talking, just leave. Walk out, go to the aisle, and just leave the auditorium, and I don't know, go hang out in the student center or something until everything's over. So that was our mindset going into it. And so we got there the day of, and we situated ourselves in different areas of the lecture hall, and we proceeded to follow through on our plan. And I was the first one, so I got up. Michael Oren, propagating murder is not an expression of free speech, and I began to leave the aisle. And as I was leaving the aisle, the police grabbed me. They took me to a back room, and then I was placed in front of a table like this, stacked with like dozens of handcuffs. So it was very clear that the university was not going to allow any form of protest that day. And I was placed in front of the table, patted down, and arrested. And it wasn't like the zip tie type of like detainment. It was like full-on metal handcuffs. And at that point in time, I didn't know, but I found out later that actually an administrator had gone up onto the stage and was like, one interruption was fine, get it out of your system. Everyone just get back to your seats and like calm down. But I was already in handcuffs. So it was clear that the university was not going to allow anything to occur that day. And the protest continued and it continued and it continued. And it went one by one until actually 10 disruptors and 10 protesters had gone. And the reason why we became called the Irvine11 is after the 10th one, there was a large student walkout that occurred. And during the course of the student walkout, they were actually chanting as they walked out. And at that point in time, actually a 11th student who was participating in the walkout was just randomly kind of grabbed by police and arrested. And with that, we became known as the Irvine11. And I guess maybe just to talk about the issue of the protest itself and why we protested, besides